Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So, off to an early start this morning. I think it's about 4:30 a.m. Perfect time to be in the shop. I can make as much noise as I like. So, our mission today, part 2 on our Herron K24 lathe. So, what we hope to get completed today is the reassembly of the carriage, so the cross slide, compound slide, get the oil changed, and that's pretty well this area done. So as we finished up last video, I said I'll get everything cleaned up for reassembly, which we have done. So all our cross slide components are all ready. Compound slide base there, and the rest of the compound slide here. So we just have a straightforward assembly operation. What did accelerate my cleaning time quite a lot was this, and yeah, this was great. So we'll there's probably 10,000 videos on these ultrasonic cleaners on the YouTube, but yeah, saved me a ton of time. Alright, so let's get, we'll get our cross slide assembled up. So if you recall last video, pretty sure I mentioned our lead screw here, the feed screw for the cross slide, had a slight bend in it. So we put that in the press and give it a quick couple of nudges, and it's reasonable now. It's close enough to where it's operational without having any detrimental problems. So, quick final wipe down. Oh, that's something too. I'll bring you in a close-up on this. So you can see down here this damage on the lubrication pipe for the saddle. So that's been caused by someone's, I'd say this is a homemade cross slide nut. And yeah, they haven't quite, I'd say when they originally made it, they haven't quite given it enough clearance, and it's damaged the pipe. So we'll just have an eyeball of that on reassembly, but things like that we'll take care of when we do the lathe overhaul later on, but at least I know about it, and that's totally what this exercise is about. It's just a quick clean up and get this thing up and running so we can give it a good shakedown. Right, where was I? Don't need those, don't need that yet, don't need that. Okay, I was giving this a wipe down. Gib strip. Just wipe down the top section. Little bit of crap I missed. Here's something too, which is very critical. I'll grab the camera. Okay, this is the underside of the cross slide. So when they machine these, in this area here, and your dovetails on either side, is a little clearance area, and these pack up with little bits of swarf and crap. The stuff does work its way in there. So when this is in its position on here, and say the lathe's been working for years and years, and you've just brought the lathe or something like that, and you want to have an inspection, my advice is do not ever get tempted to pull the gib strip out unless you're prepared to take this off, because what happens, all of the crap that's sitting up in there will drop down and there's no way to flush it out. Do not get an air line and try and blow it with an air line, because you'll end up just blowing it underneath and into your sliding surfaces. So yeah, if you pull the gib strip, you've got to pull the cross slide off. And yeah, we don't have to, but I strongly recommend you do. Okay, lube her up. Not forgetting the insides of your dovetails. Okay, now let me hop round the other side, because this comes in from the rear, as I'm not sure if the spigot for the nut will clear here. That's the raised spigot for locating the nut. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it'll clear here, but it will clear from coming in this way. Yeah, so it won't clear, that's that spigot holding it. So what we've got to remember to do now, these are our retaining bolts for the compound slide. So these have to be slipped in like now. So these slip in from underneath, just come up into their location. Quite an easy part to forget to do. You put your compound slide up, put your screw in, assemble it all up. Oh shit, forgot to put these in. Okay, let's get our gib strip in next. Hopefully all goes smooth and well. These gib adjuster screws aren't the best either. They're pretty well knackered. This one's hardly even engaging in it. Let me pull it back out. Let's have a look at the other one. They're always, I don't know, they always seem to be molested and butchered, these bloody gib screws. Some people should just not be allowed anywhere near them. Let's try this one. It's got it. So we'll have to make new ones, ones that fit properly when we do the overhaul. Let me put the rear one in. Just a little burr on here, I'll just touch off with a file. It's got it. Even though there doesn't appear to be really much wear on that gib strip, she's still poking through a bit. And yeah, there's an issue here. Typical. I'll bring you around. So this is typical of what you get with old molested machinery. The larger part of the gib adjuster screw actually goes down inside and will bend the gib. You got to have this screw, it stops the gib rocking, because I could feel this one rocking. Yeah, as I've explained in other videos, not all machines have it, but okay, just for now I'm just going to put a washer on here so it actually contacts the end of the gib. Dodgy as it is, but like I say, this is all stuff that can be attended to properly when we do the lathe overhaul. We just need this thing up and running. Okay, well that was a bit of mucking around to get this into some form of adjustment, but it's not too bad now. I'll show you what I had to do. So looking at the rear gib adjuster, if you look down, the shoulder of the adjuster screw here was going inside the gib and forcing the gib across, putting premature load on it sideways. So just as a bodge, I've just got a nut and a big washer just to encapsulate the end of the gib. That just stops the gib rocking to and fro with the minimal bit of play that's in the head of the opposite end screw. Yeah, let's say a lot of the small stuff like this will get attended to once we do the overhaul. So next up I want to get the oil draining out. There's a drain port there. That's our filler there, and our sight glass for the level. Then we can get this, make sure this pump works, because I want to make sure we're getting oil up here out of this hole here. So yeah, well, that's fed by these copper lines on either side. So that's our next task. So I'll get a bucket set up and we'll see what comes out of this thing, if anything. Okay, we'll see what's going to be revealed here. Soup. Well, it's sort of oil. Not much of it. Yeah, just a goopy sludge, not much of it. Typical. So possibly a lot of that oil out of the apron leaked out over a period of time, because that was the the drain plug washer, so it squashed out of shape and it did leave an opening. So just put a fibre washer on it now, so we'll put that back in and that should stop it farting in church. Right, so in with the Texas tea. This is just a bit of Caltex Rando 68 hydraulic oil. Hope I got enough. Oh yeah. Right, we're full on the sight glass, so give our pump a few. Oh, I'm hearing some good noises. Bit of sucking and gurgling. Oh, we have a spurt. There we go, she's a squirter. I'll blank this one off with my finger. We'll try the other side. This big ball of crud came out of it there. Just wipe this up. We don't want this crud going through and into our nice clean ways. Okay, so if I hold my finger over this side, Okay, so there's an issue with the plumbing for the I'll give it a few more pumps. Actually, I'll give it a poke. Ah, chockers. Chockers full of crap. Oh, there she goes. Oh, there's some crap in that. So I'll just keep pumping this through until I'm satisfied that the oil coming out is fit for purpose. It's actually cleaning up quite quickly. This far side's good. Just a bit more coming out of this side here. So we have a bit of an ooze coming out of these shafts as well. So it's going somewhere. So, okay, we'll leave the lubrication system at that for now. Well, at least we're getting it to the cross slide. We know the rearway pipe is damaged, so there's unlikely to be any fed through there. This one yet is unknown, so we'll have to just manually lubricate the ways, which is no problem, you do that anyway. Right, so next thing is let's have a look at our anti-backlash nut, and we'll get our feed screw back in. Bit of a foggy old morning out in the backyard this morning. I think we might be in for some rain this weekend. Still, winter's over at last. So if you remember in the last video when we stripped this, when we were pulling this nut out, there was this hole there. I didn't know what it was. I just called it a thing. There was a thing inside it. What that was remnants of a ball oiler. So yeah, that's your lubrication hole for the cross slide nut. Now this appears to me to be a nut that someone's made, and I would assume it should have a hole here so it can get oil. So as it stands, the nut was blanking off that hole, so there was no way to lubricate the cross shaft. So I've transfer punched through, so I'm going to drill a hole through here, through into the thread, and at least that way we can get some oil down into it. Now I don't have an 8mm ball oiler. I used the last couple in the K24 lathe, so just for now I'll just put a plastic plug in it as a temporary measure. So I'll just duck over to the drill and pop a hole through here. So on our nut, this is going to be our oiling hole, and I drilled an 8mm hole most of the way through, and then the last little bit I opened up with a little 3mm drill. So this will create a bit of an oil reservoir as well. So we can get this assembled up. So it's a bit of a different type of affair for a anti-backlash nut. The idea actually seems to work, I think, quite well. So with your two pieces, you've got 4 cap screws. 2 are tapped into here to jack this part off the main part, and the other 2 pull it into the main part. So we get it screwed on. Like so. And then our 2 longer cap screws, which go through the through hole in this part, then screw into this part. So we can just do those up finger tight. So we have an even gap around the nut. So I've got a lot of backlash there at the moment. So our 2 jacking screws one there, one there. So to take the backlash out, we do just go half a turn out, half a turn in, half a turn in, half a turn out, half a turn in, okay, that's taken the backlash right out of it. What we need to do is keep this gap even. So we'll just screw in on that one. Okay. So we've got no backlash there, so now we can just give this one and this one a little nip. We could reduce that just slightly. We'll do that by backing that off and tightening up the opposite too. Just that's quite firm on there now. As soon as we get it down off the end, she starts freeing up. So we'll just give these a final, only need a little nip, don't need much. And these are accessible in situ with a long, probably get it with a socket head, Allen key on a socket with your socket set. Okay. So we're in the middle of the screw now. Whoops. Bend you up a bit. And we've probably got good between 10 and 15 thou backlash there. But we can check that properly on our dial when we assemble it. Okay, so we can slip our shaft in now. Well, we'll slip the nut in first, get it mounted up, then we'll pop our shaft in. So our nut goes in from underneath. We just have our cap screw. Pull him up into position. Now I don't want to tighten this yet because the nut has to be squared up and it will naturally square itself up when it's on the screw. Okay, let's get our screw in. Before we do that, let's just confirm that our oil port is going to work. And it is. I see oil flowing through there now. A bit of lube on the gear, on the thread, and down into the bearing as well. There's a locking grub screw and a dimple that locks us in position, so I have to keep this at the 6 o'clock position, which puts the oiler at the 12 o'clock position. Okay, that's home. Get our locking screw in. Okay, that's engaged into that hole. So now, very gently engage our nut. So we're just going to work it backwards and forwards and just very let the nut square itself up on the shaft before we tighten it down. That's it. Okay. I'm happy with that. So backlash up here, 10 thou. Go down to our more worn area. $17 thou. That's good. I could take a little bit of that out, but that's still fine, so we'll just let it all settle in for a bit before we make any further adjustments, regardless whether they're on the nut or on the gib strip. So we can put some oil in our hole and put our temporary plastic plug in to keep the crap out. Now we did have these other two holes here which we had no idea what they're for. they actually don't do anything. So it's just these two blanking screws go in, and then we should be good to go. I'll just keep the muck out. Right, so we'll get this little stop on next, and then we'll move on to the compound. Okay, so our adjustable cross slide stop. Two T-bolts. It just drops down. Now the threads on these are pretty knackered. Another thing to go onto the list when we do our recondition, natural fact that one's stripped. Right, one alright, one stripped. So that's why these jobs, like the JFMT I'm doing, takes so long to do. It's just every little thing you've got to attend to or repair. So there's a lot of hours goes into proper, or as best as you can with what you got, machine recondition on these old machines. So, alright, compound slide. So that stop just comes up against this cap screw here, stops your compound. I don't know if that's original, or I sort of feel it should be something a bit more proper than a cap screw. Maybe a square block or something, but oh well, we'll just let that slide for now. Let's get our bolts a bit closer. Okay, so we replaced our 4 dodgy washers that gave us the grief when we were trying to strip this off, and put some new nuts on it as well. So I'll put it in our normal position, which is this way. When we go to do our first job, which is our thread, we'll be coming around to 90 and then back 29 degrees to cut our thread. Near enough on the 0. Nip it down. Okay. Wipe her off, leave her up, now there's no provision for oiling whatsoever on this compound. You've pretty well got to strip the thing down. There's no noticeable wear or issues like that, so even, you know, remember it was really dry when I pulled it apart. So right, we'll get the top bit on. So the bearings in the end, yeah, they've seen better days, but for what it does, we'll run them again. And of course the shaft. Shaft slips in. There's a locking nut is on. Now, a subscriber dropped me off a handful of these C-spanners. Yeah, they're a bit of a must for this sort of work. It's a little bit too tight. I can feel the bearings being a little bit grumbly. Back that off a bit. That's got it. There's a little brass shoe inside on the base of the thread that this grub screw pulls down onto, and it just protects the thread on the shaft. Okay, so now I believe we had just a bit more oil. Got our dial and the lock nut for the dial. Now our handle, the issue, it's had a dodgy parallel pin put in where it should be a tapered pin. Either that or it's a really worn out tapered pin. And the handle's not a great fit on here, which is something we'll have to rectify later on. Now, I should be able to clean this up. This is a number 2, I think. Yeah, number 2 tapered reamer. So I'll clean it out with that, and I'll just go and quickly knock up a new tapered pin for it. Be back. Well, that's all we've got time for. It soon chews into video time doing this sort of work. So we've achieved what we wanted to achieve today, well, mostly. So next video we'll be looking into the headstock, adjusting up the change gears at the back. We may change the chuck over as well, compound on, and we should be in a state where we can hit the start button and give her a test run. So anyway, cheers, thanks for watching, catch you later.